Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and cockles presented by Bolin Media, our first episode of 2024. I am Ross Bolin, here with Barrett Dudley. Barrett, we are so back.
Is this our first episode of 2024?
Publicly.
Oh, right. Yes.
Non-Patreon.
Yeah. Well, that's, Saltburn really, it belonged on the Patreon. It was too spicy,
too graphic,
adult, too risque to just live here on podcast platforms for just anybody and everybody. And that was evidenced even in our group chat where a buddy of ours was just like, I'm not watching it. It's too much. That's how crazy this movie is and how much you probably should go pay to hear us talk about it. Is that people are just straight up, they're throwing up in the theaters, they're leaving, they're clutching their pearls. They've never seen anything like it. People are even saying it makes a Serbian film look like Sesame Street.
Yeah,
so,
that's what I've heard. I've heard.
Yeah.
For those of you who have watched Saltburn, if you would like to hear Barrett and I discuss it, we did a full hour last week on patreon.com/oystersclamscockles, where you can go subscribe, support the show, and get all of our ad-free premium content there on Patreon. We had a blast watching this movie and discussing it. Obviously, as Barrett said, it's probably not for everybody. Not for everybody. But if you can find your way through the 3 or 4 really graphic and disturbing scenes in the movie, which I think are totally warranted in that they pay off. It's not just for shock and awe.
Right.
Then you got something really special there, and I really, really enjoyed it. But yeah, to hear any further thoughts on Saltburn, you'll have to head to Patreon. But this is our first official, public, free, sponsor-based episode of 2024, and it is officially awards season. So we are going to open today talking about the Golden Globes and the big winners on the night. Barrett, did you watch the Golden Globes live?
Yeah. So let's see. This was Sunday evening. I got home from my trip, and I had seen earlier that day that the Golden Globes were going to be that evening, and I think that was the first time that I realized that the Golden Globes were happening.
Oh, I had no idea. I happened to pull up because I had football on all day, so I was on YouTube TV, and it was sitting there, and I was like, "Oh, look at that."
Yeah, and so then I sat down on the couch and I had the Bills-Dolphins game up, which was frankly kind of a bore. So I was like, then I just snapped it. I said, "Oh, the Globes are on."
The Globes. Gotta watch the Globes.
And so I switched over to the Globes, and so I think I saw at least the second half, maybe the second 2/3 or so. Saw a lot of the big awards, but definitely missed some as well. So quick rehash of the Globes, and I don't remember all the years here, but the Globes were always, the party version of the Oscars
with the open bar.
And
they got to comment on that every year.
They fill the room with celebs. They covered both TV and movies, and it was a lot of fun because you got things like the classic, like Chrissy Teigen crying or cry laugh reaction gif, all that type of shit.
Got some good ones this year too.
And then a year or two, after that, like they got canceled because we all realized that the Hollywood Foreign Press was just totally white. It was just whiteys, just a bunch of whites,
just racist as hell.
And there was no diversity, and they were kind of refusing to include like many people of color in the nominees, and like nobody felt good about it, and so they got booted. They basically got booted off the air. Whoever had the contract was like, "Yeah, we're done. We're good."
Took at least 1 year off.
And they took at least 1 year off. I think maybe 2, or maybe they happened last year, but they weren't televised. Anyway, I cannot quite recall if this was the return of the Golden Globes.
Yeah, it was.
Or if it was the second time that it's been back on the air. But
I'm pretty sure they billed it as like the return.
Okay.
And made some jokes.
Okay. All right, so
that's
kind of what I felt like it happened, and so now I missed the red carpet and I missed the monologue, but it only took about 10 minutes of watching for me to be like, "Holy shit!" They packed this room with every major A-list celebrity that exists, and I was frankly floored. These people could not wait to get back to this party. It would appear, or they just pulled the right strings, or paid the right people, or did what they had to do, because. I mean, that's like one of the reasons the Oscars is so lame sometimes is because, like movies that people know don't get nominated. Therefore, the people in them don't show up. And so it's kind of like, okay, yeah, maybe Leo's there, maybe Scorsese's there, but like, that your favorite actors aren't there. Like this was everybody, man.
Yeah.
This was everybody.
Taylor Swift was there.
Taylor Swift was there. Kylie Jenner was there.
Yeah. With Timothée Chalamet. And they were very PDA.
They were very PDA. And my favorite thing of the whole night is the hubbub that came out of that when Selena Gomez tried to go over to take a picture with Timothée Chalamet and Kylie shut her down. She said
no.
Hailey Bieber, that's my girl. You can't take a picture with Timothée Chalamet. And then Selena went back over to Taylor Swift, and you can read their lips and they're gossiping about it. And Taylor, she's gasping about this. And then later, Miles Teller, his wife, Kaylee, you can read her lips and she goes, Timothy? And they're all just like, they're yapping. They're talking about the goss, the tea.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get enough of that. So
yeah, that was good fun.
Good fun.
The best reaction of this year, a la Chrissy Teigen, was none other than J-Law, Jennifer Lawrence, when she was nominated for whatever that funny horny movie she did.
Yes, No Hard Feelings.
And they have them all on the screen, all the nominees before the winner is announced, and she stared right into the camera and she mouthed, "If I don't win, I'm leaving."
Yeah, that was good. And right there is a great example. They clearly were like, you know who we need at this party? Jennifer Lawrence. Nominate her for that shit movie she did.
Oh, bro.
Like
there were we're going to go through the winners, and there were a lot of nominations where I was like, her?
Yeah.
Like, what I mean? Like, wait, like making an Arrested Development reference there. But like Super Mario Bros. Was like in several categories, and I was just like, I don't even care how good that may be or how well it might have been made. Like, there's just certain things that don't necessarily belong at award shows. Like, if you're trying to make them like prestigious.
I mean, Lego Movie got nominated for a bunch of shit all those times.
It was kind of a consistent theme with this Golden Globes, where in each category there was at least one thing where I was like, what?
Well,
how'd that get in there?
I mean, also, if there was ever a year, this was the year, because like stuff got dropped off the slate.
That's very true. Very fair.
The last several months of the year, like there wasn't a lot of big stuff dropping. So if there was ever a year to just sneak in the celebs to some of these categories to make sure that Jennifer Lawrence is sitting in the audience and like doing funny stuff on camera, and to get that, you need to nominate her for No Hard Feelings, then yeah, I mean, by all means, go for it. Like it wasn't a terrible movie. It just is frankly it's not a great one. It's not a... Like it's
not an award season.
It's not an awards movie.
Yeah.
So,
but I agree with you overall. It was kind of shocking to see that many A-listers in like a smaller space, and the way it was set up with like the stage out kind of in the middle, right? Like thrust out into the audience a little bit. That circular stage. You got all these camera angles where you could see so many of them in one frame that it was a little. Yeah, it was kind of took you aback. It was just like, damn, that was some serious star power at this thing, which led to some complaining when the host, who's a stand-up comic, Joe Coy.
I'd never heard of him in my entire life.
He's done like the only place I've seen him is on Chelsea Handler's show, Chelsea Lately. He's he's often one of the panelists that was included, but he didn't do well.
I heard that his monologue kind of bombed a little bit.
It wasn't good. And look, I'm not trying to sit here and like roast Joe Coy today. It's not my intention. But this, like, just watching him kind of get up there and flail, because he lost all momentum with the monologue, and then he couldn't get anybody back on board with him the rest of the night. So every joke he tried to make, like between segments or whatever, they just the whole room completely ignored him.
They had just like they had decided
the energy was gone. And you could tell he knew, like oh, I fucked this up. And dude, it's an awesome gig that I don't think you can really turn down if you're in a position where it's going to elevate your career. But it is a risky gig. And it's probably one of the hardest gigs in terms of entertainment to host one of these award shows, because at the Globes, people kept getting up on stage, and speaking of how many A-listers were there, they would acknowledge how intimidating the room was.
Yes.
Like a bunch of like very big stars.
That is how celeb packed this room was, is that multiple people got up there and were like, I can't believe how many celebs are here.
Yeah, like I'm so nervous. Yeah. Like this is so intimidating. And so to be the host that has to deal with that feeling the whole time, like it's what made like Ricky Gervais's hosting abilities so special, because I think it's almost like being a teacher. Like it takes a certain kind of person. Not just anybody can go in there and do that job.
Yeah, I mean the Golden Globes like Oscars historically, at least for the last 2 decades, I would say, nobody likes the hosts ever. Everybody does a shit job basically. The Golden Globes, it's been the opposite. It's been like you either had Ricky Gervais roasting the audience, but he's the right man to do it, and everybody loves it, and everybody eats it up, and he's willing to go there, and like blah 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 blah. Or you had Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, who were like two of the greatest awards show hosts of all time, doing the Globes, because they're like one of the people, they are one of the celebs, but they're also like at a slightly less glamorous tier than like Margot Robbie, Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling, Leonardo DiCaprio, right? And so they were able to have like a huge amount of fun with all that as well. And yeah, so this is the show that had kind of like big shoes to step into, but at the same time, prior to the Golden Globes, if you had been like, "What's Joe Coy look like?" I would have been like, "I don't know who that is."
Yeah,
and
same.
And now I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's the dude that bombed at the Golden Globes." And so honestly, it's a come up. It's a
in terms of brand,
it's kind of akin to a backhanded compliment, but like you have more recognition now than you did before, and that's probably not a terrible thing for your career.
And I'm being serious when I say this. One of the jokes that didn't land was at the expense of Taylor Swift. He joked that they're going to have less camera shots of Taylor Swift than NFL games do now.
Right.
And her reaction was great. She just like went straight to the drink and looked upset,
and
which is
deadpan,
which is what you got to do if you're Taylor Swift there. But it didn't really hit for anybody else. And then the thing that I think really went wrong there was the Swifties are a sensitive people.
Yeah.
They don't like jokes at the expense of their queen, of their mother. And once you've got all of the Swifties piling on and hating on you, that's a wave of hate and negativity that is difficult to overcome. And Joe Coy failed to overcome that.
Yeah.
And he's been going through it this week. So shout out to him. It's a tough gig, and he could have done better. Sure, I'm sure there are some jokes he wish he could go back and rehash. But it is what it is. And let's move on to some of the winners. I'm just going to go through the categories that are most prevalent to our show first, I guess. So best television series drama. This was one that had Succession, The Last of Us, The Crown, The Morning Show, The Diplomat, and 1923. Now, the two that I was like, really? The Morning Show?
Yeah.
I've heard mostly negative things about The Morning Show and have zero interest in it. And then 1923, I was like, okay, I heard that was really good. Don't get me wrong. But it's a Yellowstone fucking spinoff.
How about The Diplomat? What the shit is The Diplomat?
The Diplomat, excuse me, is supposed to be really good. I didn't watch any of it. My wife watched a bunch of it, and she said it was great, and she typically has pretty good taste in TV, so I trust her. But it was kind of a weird grab bag here of shows that I didn't feel like Succession had any chance of losing this category.
No. You read those names, and that was a pretty
and they won
clear-cut winner.
They won, yeah.
I think I watched the very first episode of The Morning Show. Couldn't really get into it. Never watched another one. But the one thing that I do know about it is that The Ringer's Prestige TV podcast recently stopped covering The Morning Show.
Because it got to that point.
That's pretty. That's not a great look in 2023 when there wasn't that much Prestige TV happening, and
they just walked away.
Yeah, like nah. I think they moved it to like one of their like podcasts covering like pop culture and stuff and random stuff like that. So
I'll say this for us: it's been a really long time since you and I chose to cover something and then had to just be like, never mind.
Yeah,
this is no good. This is no good. Anyway, congratulations to Succession there, but no surprise. Best performance by an actress in a television series drama. Sarah Snook won this one. Not her first time, but she won for Succession up against Bella Ramsey for The Last of Us, Helen Mirren for 1923, Kerry Russell for The Diplomat, Emma Stone for The Curse, and Imelda Staunton for The Crown. And it was cool seeing the Succession squad. I will note Jeremy Strong, not there. The eldest boy did not show, nor did Brian Cox.
Yes, we took note of that very quickly. I'm not going to lie. I don't like it. Where were you guys?
Yeah, you better have a really good excuse.
You couldn't be it's
final season, man.
Final season. Your show's winning all the awards, and we had kind of predicted as much that this was kind of the Kieran Culkin Roman season. I'm sure that's probably next up on your list, and we had kind of guessed that he might get it this year.
Yeah.
because it was such kind of the breakthrough season for him. And Jeremy Strong had already won it. Brian Cox is only in 3 episodes. Like, you can't be there to show up for your boy.
Support the squad.
Support the squad, right?
I mean, one of the things they referenced repeatedly as they were accepting their numerous awards over the course of the evening was that it was like a team effort and a family, and they all made each other better, yada yada. And then yet you're missing the two big dogs.
Yeah. Do you think that it's because there's such beef between Brian Cox and Jeremy Strong that they had to say, both of you stay home?
I honestly considered the possibility that Jeremy Strong was like, I'm too art for this. Like I don't do this mainstream bullshit. I'm off.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Building my next role.
Yeah.
And that Brian Cox was like, well, if that fucker's not going, I'm not going. You know what I mean? Like, if he doesn't have to be there, I don't have to be there. I'm an old man.
Right.
But who knows? Who knows what the reason was?
So the Emmys are... Wait, no, the Emmys already happened. No. The Emmys did not happen. They got pushed.
Primetime Emmys are January 15th.
Okay.
So next week.
So it'll be interesting to see if they show up to that.
Yeah, because those are two very close together award shows, frankly.
Right, and the Emmys,
maybe they picked that one.
I would say a little bit more prestigious.
Definitely
for the TV awards than the Globes.
Definitely.
And maybe Jeremy Strong and Brian Cox just weren't down to glad hand with the Hollywood Foreign Press, and they were like, we're probably not winning this. Kieran's been going to every single luncheon that they're throwing, so we're just gonna hold off for the Emmys where we think we have a better shot.
I could see them talking themselves into like, this gives the others a chance to shine more, but even that is kind of a pretentious move. It's like, just fucking show up and fucking be there for everybody else, man. Yeah. But yeah, you said Kieran's award will probably be next, and it is Best Performance by an Actor in a Television Series Drama, which Kieran Culkin did take home for Succession, which was really cool. Brian Cox was also nominated, Jeremy Strong was also nominated, and Pedro Pascal for The Last of Us, Gary Oldman for Slow Horses, Dominic West for The Crown. Not shocking, and one that, like you said, you and I discussed the very real possibility that this would take place. We were more looking at the Emmys, I think, which I still think. That's one thing the Golden Globes kind of serves as...
potentially a little bit predictive,
Right.
Yeah.
So, cool to see Kieran get some of his flowers here, because we harped on it time and again during Succession's final season coverage. What his rise as an actor through season 1 to season 4 is meteoric and historic.
Yeah. And Kieran's speech was great, if you have not heard it. Also illuminating that the reason he's so good at playing Roman Roy is because he kind of is Roman Roy. He is kind of anxious and frenetic, and he does the hair thing like throughout his entire speech, makes jokes at his own expense as well as the expense of others. Very humorously told Pedro Pascal to suck it.
He burped when he first got up there and said he had indigestion.
Yeah, so he kind of just had this like very like wild speech, but it was good. It was great
and genuine. Yeah. Best performance by an actor in a supporting role or in a television series. Matthew McFadden took this one home for Succession, which was also very cool to see. He was up against James Marsden for Jury Duty, which just made me crack up. Eben Moss-Bachrach for The Bear, Billy Crudup for The Morning Show, Alexander Skarsgård for Succession, and Alan Ruck for Succession. I think I saw Alan Ruck there.
So in this category, what is this category?
Best performance by an actor in a supporting role in a television series. So this one does not make the distinction between drama and comedy.
Very interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And look, these are some of the easier categories we're going through.
Right.
Some of the other ones we're going to get to, I was just like, what the... And I'm so sick of talking about it.
We've had this... Yeah.
But every time I'm watching the Globes and these categories come up, I'm like... why are musicals being thrown into the mix? Like, what is a comedy anymore? Does anybody know? And they've got to figure out different titles for these fucking awards. Please, God. Best television series, musical, or comedy was The Bear, Ted Lasso, Abbott Elementary, Jury Duty, Only Murders in the Building, and Barry. To put The Bear and Barry in a category with Ted Lasso and Jury Duty and Abbott Elementary doesn't... fucking make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
but The Bear won.
Yeah,
which did not shock anyone. Best performance by an actor in a television series, musical, or comedy. Again, same problem with the category. Jeremy Allen White won for The Bear. He was up against Sudeikis for Ted Lasso, Bill Hader for Barry, Jason Segel for Shrinking, Steve Martin for Only Murders in the Building, and Martin Short for Only Murders in the Building. Pretty stacked category talent-wise that our boy Jeremy Allen White, who's mostly disclothed body has been all over my social media for 2 straight weeks due to his what is it, Calvin Klein campaign?
ad, and also he's in the Iron Claw right now, where he,
Oh yeah.
Have you seen this film?
Haven't watched it.
No, okay.
Haven't watched it. Not near the top of my list.
Yeah,
Not a wrestling guy.
I have been. The story has been not explained to me, but I have heard a little bit about what happens to the Von Erichs.
Yeah. It's not great.
It's not great. It's going to take a lot. I would like to watch that film. Obviously, I want to F around a little bit.
Sure.
And then I'd like to support the boar on the floor, aka the bear, aka Big Jaw, Jeremy Allen White.
Big Jaw.
But yeah, that one sounds.
That's a tough sell, dude.
Pretty dark.
That's a tough sell.
Yeah.
The only thing I know about the story is the horrible ending.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to watch that play out. Best performance by an actress in a television series, musical, or comedy went to Ayo Edebiri for The Bear. She was up against Natasha Lyonne for Poker Face, Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary, Rachel Brosnahan for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Selena Gomez for Only Murders in the Building, and Elle Fanning for The Great. Best television limited series, anthology series, or motion picture made for television, which this is where I was like, wait a minute, this is just like a lot thrown into one. Like, I don't even know what anthology series means, frankly. And then motion picture made for television is just wedged in there with all these TV shows. So
anthology just means that it's a different story every season under the same banner.
Like American Horror Story?
And Fargo.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Beef was the winner here. And one of the things that I noticed quickly about the Globes, one of the mistakes they made, if they're going to give a bunch of awards to one show, maybe don't seat the people from that show 15 minutes from the stage. The walk that the Beef crew had to take to get to the stage was quite a trek.
Yeah.
And it caused some awkwardness. They ate up half of their fucking speech time getting to the stage.
That's no good.
Bummed me out a little bit.
The Beef is potentially going to do the White Lotus thing here, which is they sneak in a limited series, and then everybody was like, that show was so good, and then the streamer, in this case Netflix, is like, oh well, okay, another season then, and then it's not a limited series anymore, and you're like, well, hey, now
you kind of cheated. I hope they don't do that, because I like the way it ended, and I don't think there needs to be more.
I'm hearing that there's a season 2.
Well, it was up against Lessons in Chemistry, which another one my wife watched and loved. Daisy Jones and the Six, she also watched. I watched some and did not like it and bowed out. All the Light We Cannot See, which I've never even heard of, Fellow Travelers, and then Fargo. They kept throwing Fargo in there, and I was like, it hasn't even ended. I obviously realized that the Hollywood Foreign Press has seen the entire thing before they vote or whatever, and the people who vote all get screeners. But it was still weird to me, and I was like, kind of half crossing my fingers that they wouldn't win anything, so that nobody would get up there and like accidentally let something slip about how this thing ends.
Yeah. It's always pretty interesting when like a show kind of starts late, but still makes it, under the window and like gets in for the nominations. And even for the movies, as for an award show as early as this one was, it's like, I feel like Poor Things has only been out in theaters for 2 weeks.
And it was all over the place,
and it's cleaning up out there. So.
Yeah. Best performance by an actress in a limited series, anthology series, or motion picture made for television went to Ali Wong for Beef. And then the same category for an actor went to Steven Yeun for Beef. So they both won.
Yeah.
And back to back, and had to make that trek to the stage. And that's when I realized, like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
Best motion picture, getting into some of the movie stuff here. Drama was an Anatomy of a Fall, The Zone of Interest, Past Lives, Maestro, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Oppenheimer. And Oppenheimer took it home. Oppenheimer got the big win here, final, major award of the night or whatever.
Yep.
And I don't know that you can really argue with that. I mean, it was a good little 5 films up here that it was competing against. I keep hearing, you brought up Past Lives, I keep hearing over and over, you got to watch this thing. And every person that sent me that DM, I ask, it's really heavy, right? And they're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I shelve it for another day. But good for Oppenheimer. I mean, I think we both really enjoyed watching that thing. Don't know if I'll be rewatching it anytime soon still, but good fun.
This award show definitely made me ready to revisit it because I as good as I thought it was, I also left slightly underwhelmed, and probably just the case of, as you know, we mentioned when it came out over the summer last year, but like I didn't love the theater I was in. Probably overhyped it a little bit too much for myself because I love Christopher Nolan films. So just all that kind of combined. Like I would like to see the film again.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon were both kind of departures from like their director's sort of like wheelhouse, you know? Like Killers of the Flower Moon had some elements like in terms of like the organized crime nature of it that Scorsese likes to play with, but it was way more historical and way more I guess just like serious and real than most of the shit Scorsese does. And then Oppenheimer was very much like a biopic or whatever the word is. Biopic.
Yeah.
About one guy, you know? So that was a little bit different than what we've grown accustomed to seeing Christopher Nolan do as well. But yeah, took home Best Picture. Cillian Murphy also won for Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama, up against Bradley Cooper, Leonardo DiCaprio, Coleman Domingo, Andrew Scott, and Barry Keoghan for Saltburn, which I didn't even know I didn't know Saltburn was up in this award season either. So it'll be interesting to see if they get any hardware from the actual Academy Awards, which take place later in
February,
March 10th.
Okay.
Yeah. Best performance by an actress in a motion picture. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up. Best motion picture, musical or comedy, went to Poor Things. They were up against Barbie, American Fiction, The Holdovers, May, December, which I cannot believe is in there, and Air. And then best performance by an actress in a motion picture, musical or comedy, went to Emma Stone for Poor Things, up against Margot Robbie, Natalie Portman, Fantasia Barrino, Alma Poisty, and Jennifer Lawrence for No Hard Feelings. So that's where J. Law had her little nomination thrown in that I was like, what? The fuck? Best performance by an actor in a motion picture went to Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. Musical or comedy was the category. And did you see Giamatti went to In-N-Out with his Golden Globe?
I did not.
Well, it got a lot of coverage, and I'm like 80% sure they paid him to do that.
That sounds, I could imagine that.
Because like he's in the middle of the restaurant, and he's got the Golden Globe on the table, and people are like, oh, what an everyman. I'm like, he's in a fucking tux and has an award on the table. It's not as much of an everyman move as people are making it out to be, and it looks like marketing to me.
Yeah, that feels a lot,
right?
Very, very marketing.
Looks like marketing, smells like marketing. It's probably marketing. But that category was pretty stacked. It was Giamatti, Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction, Matt Damon for Air, Joaquin Phoenix for Beau is Afraid, Timothée Chalamet for Wonka, which I can't believe was worthy of a nomination, and then Nicolas Cage for Dream Scenario. It was also Nicolas Cage's birthday, I would note, the night the Golden Globes were going on. And he just looks wildly deranged every time they show him on camera. Then they had this category, Barrett, called Cinematic and Box Office Achievement.
Yeah.
Which was kind of early on in the night.
Category, right?
Yeah, brand new, first time.
Yep.
And it was kind of in the middle of the show at a random point. And when they're describing it, it sounds like Best Picture, or Best Drama. It seemed like a really, really big deal. But then you kind of got the feeling when you go through the nominees here, it was Barbie, which won.
Yep.
Oppenheimer, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, John Wick Chapter 4, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour.
Yeah.
It's a weird mix of like...
Yeah, so I didn't get to look at... I didn't have a chance to look at what the criteria to be entered into this category was. And then but then it obviously has a voting element because there was a winner, not just a calculation, right? And this is something that has been pitched a lot. This is, remember the Oscars? The Oscars were about to do this. They announced this.
Yeah.
And then there was such backlash that they backed away from doing the pop culture-y box office, popular film award.
Right.
So Golden Globe just went there with it and did introduce something like this. And so I imagine that there was some threshold for box office achievement that these films needed to make.
It's $100 million in the United States alone.
Okay, all right.
And at least $150 million total.
Okay. So there you go. So this was the opportunity, and then I don't know what the critic. There was some level of critical achievement here. Most of these movies that did get included were either extremely well reviewed or at the very least pretty decently thought of. Super Mario Brothers, I think, actually got pretty decent reviews for for an animated and film generally meant for young people.
No, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was beloved.
Beloved, absolutely beloved. All of those animated Spider-Verse films, people freak out over.
But Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, which you and I saw in the IMAX, I'll say this: when they played the clip.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, no, it does look really tight.
No, and
for 30 seconds.
Don't forget that we were largely in the minority about the way we felt about that film.
Yeah, and I really do think, having watched that clip on the small screen in my bedroom, that this movie was probably a lot more enjoyable not at an IMAX where you're so overwhelmed by everything that's happening that you can't enjoy it.
I would agree with that. But so, I don't know quite how I feel about this award. I think it's good. It came after a string of Barbie losses.
Right.
That, so it's kind of like...
It made it feel like they were like, we got to make something that they can win.
Yeah, and then I was wondering, my guess is that when they kind of came up with this concept for this award, and they kind of, and maybe when they instituted it, it was more like, can we give an award to a Marvel movie? Like, can we give Avengers Endgame an award?
Sure.
And so, It's kind of bittersweet. I'm glad that when they finally got to this award, it actually went to a movie that did both, that dominated the box office, was a huge smashing success monetarily, financially, but that also was extremely well reviewed, very highly thought of. People nominated for acting awards as well. So that was all good, but you still did kind of have this, at least for me, Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie seemed very, very, they were proud of it. They enjoyed it. They accepted it with a lot of grace. But for me, I was like, it's kind of, I feel a little weird about this.
Made me feel icky.
You're just kind of tossing this new made-up award so that Barbie gets something.
Because they're not going
to beat Oppenheimer or Poor Things for anything else. So... it's like, oh, that was cute, good job, but now back to the real films.
Yeah,
that
didn't feel fair.
It didn't feel fair.
No, and there's been a lot of discourse since the Globes about whether Barbie was snubbed and how much, the fact that it was made off of existing IP was held against it and yada yada. And I mean, it is. Look, you can see this coming from a million miles away, for sure. But I mean, watching that movie, it didn't feel like anything should be held against it regarding existing IP. It felt like it was really well written, really well directed, really well acted, super original and fun for anybody. And that's a really tough thing to pull off with a Barbie movie of all things. So, yeah, I mean, I think it almost made it worse for me that they're like, well, you can't win, you're not going to win the big awards,
right?
But here's cinematic and box office achievement.
Yeah,
it almost validates the people who were like, it shouldn't be taken that seriously,
right?
And so I don't know how to feel about it either.
It will be, I think, once we have more context, in the years coming forward, right?
Yeah.
To see what else wins this award.
Yeah,
that will also kind of I think that will be a testament to it, because if they do end up giving this award to some dog shit movie that made $1 billion, but a lot of people went and saw, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then it's going to cheapen it even further. But if they do keep it in the zone where it's this movie made a lot of money and also everybody thought it was really good, but the snobbery of the voting base is not going to allow it to win anything else, then okay, fine. At least it gets acknowledged.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. Best original song from a motion picture went to Billie Eilish and Phineas for What Was I Made For, the Barbie song.
Laura and I were bummed about this because this should have gone to I'm Just Ken.
Yeah. Look, okay, I don't disagree, but that Billie Eilish song is incredible. It is.
You're a fan?
It is very, very depressing, but it is a beautiful, beautiful song. I do think if you're picking from one, look, maybe they were trying to counterbalance the non-serious nature of cinematic and box office achievement. And they were like, we'll pick the more art song of the two.
Sure.
But yeah, they were both nominated in that category with a bunch of other random shit.
All three of the songs nominated from Barbie are pretty great
Dance the Night
songs.
was in there too.
Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
Happy to have Dua Lipa at the award show as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Who'd she go up there with? I can't remember who she presented an award.
Elizabeth Banks.
Okay, Elizabeth Banks had one of the more challenging presenter bits of the night and completely pulled it off. 'Cause first of all, they're like, Elizabeth Banks, the director of Cocaine Bear and Dua Lipa. And you're just like immediately like, Jesus Christ. They have to say Cocaine Bear when she comes out. You know what I mean?
I did not hear. Is that how they announced her?
Yes.
As the director of Cocaine Bear?
Yes.
That's a tough look.
Dude. And she came out and crushed. Like she did. I thought she was amazing. I thought that bit could have easily fallen flat on its face. Like if you also saw like the bit Will Ferrell did with
Kristen Wiig,
thank you, where they kept playing that music, and at first you're like, oh God, are they gonna pull this off? This is really fucking awkward. Like that happens a lot at award shows where you kind of get this, it's this awkward comedy where you're like, is this landing?
I kind of thought the Kristen Wiig Will Ferrell bit landed.
It did. No, it did for sure. But it was up front. You're like, oh God, this is one of those ones that it may not work.
Totally.
Anyway, Elizabeth Banks, I thought she's just very, very talented and funny and probably doesn't get as much credit as she fully deserves. If you remember like her in 30 Rock and shit, she's done so much stuff and is unbelievably good.
Good performances in the Hunger Games films. A lot of people forget about that.
Directed Cocaine Bear.
And then also directed Cocaine Bear,
movie
which
wasn't my favorite.
I probably would have been like, hey, can you be like, I'm from the Hunger Games and Pitch Perfect and
all these other things that are massively successful.
Some other stuff, and maybe don't mention that I directed Cocaine Bear.
That's the one they threw out when she came out. Anyway, and then there was Best Original Score for a Motion Picture, which went to Oppenheimer for Ludwig Göransson's amazing score of that movie. And that was it. That was the Golden Globes. Overall, look, it was kind of fun. If you could get over Joe Coy and the clear I don't want to say failure, but like he didn't add anything to the show. Let me put it that way. I wasn't looking forward to the next time he got the microphone or really laughing at any of his jokes or anything. But if you got past the host and some of the weird categories that you're trying to do mental gymnastics and figure out how it's even fair that these things compete against each other, overall, I'd say it was a success because the biggest thing for me when I tune in to watch these things is what Barrett brought up at the beginning of our conversation. I want to feel like I'm looking at a room filled with the most talented people in Hollywood. The biggest stars, the biggest names that bring people out to the movie theaters and force them to sit on their couches and watch their shows. And that I thought they accomplished. And it was a nice little start to award season here. So we've got the Emmys coming up January 15th, which obviously Barrett and I will be covering in some regard. It's the same time as we're diving into True Detective Season 4. So we'll probably have to do Emmys commentary on Patreon to some effect. But and then the Academy Awards are March 10th for those who are looking to see the rest of this award season unfold. But some of our favorites won some shit, so you know, it's always good to see that.
I mean, you know, it feels it's nice when we both think that Succession and The Bear are the best TV shows of the year, and then
they win.
So that's always fun.
Yeah. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor, and if you're like me, then you're either too busy, too tired, or too ineffective in the kitchen to worry about what's for dinner when you're just trying to relax at the end of the day and binge your favorite TV shows. That's where Factor comes in and takes care of everything. I just go to the fridge, pick a Factor, toss it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and bang, I'm eating like a king on the couch. It's cheaper, better, and better for you than takeout. Get started on your resolutions this year with Factor so you're ready all 2024. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons. You'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip the overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door. They're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you to watch those shows. Forget frantic lunch preps and rushed dinners. Factor's 2-minute meals are your secret weapon in the new year. Fuel up fast with restaurant-quality meals all delivered right to your door. Head to factormeals.com/OCC50 and use code OCC50 to get 50% off. That's code OCC50 at Factor Meals, FACTOR meals.com/OCC50 to get 50% off. Barrett, have you noticed?
I'm gonna chime in on the Factor read.
Do it.
Because for on my most recent Factor delivery, I went with the whatever it's like the diet conscious or the low calorie.
Oh, Calorie Smart?
Calorie Smart. Very, very impressed with the amount of flavor that they're able to pack into the lower calorie meals, if that's something that you're looking for. And then I'm not a big juice guy. They got like the juices.
Oh, yeah.
But this time I went smoothies and wellness shots.
Oh, dude, the smoothies.
And once again, I mean, like a really, really nice ingredient list. There's not a bunch of sugar. There's not a bunch of calories. There's not a bunch of like dairy products. If that's something, it's like coconut milk based. The smoothies are awesome. The wellness shots, they've been, it's flu season, it's virus season,
Gross
it's all
out
the
there.
seasons. And the little cayenne, little lemon, maybe a little salt. The wellness shots, they go hard too.
Yeah, the problem with the smoothies.
I did not know about the smoothies and the wellness shots until I added them to my order and got them. But some of my favorite stuff I've gotten from Factor.
The problem with the smoothies is that they last like 48 hours in my fridge because they're all gone because my wife and I plow through them, and then I'm always sad the next time I go to the fridge to get one and they're gone.
Just shouts to the wellness shots and the Calorie Smart and the smoothies and all the things that I've gotten from Factor in my last delivery, which have been wonderful.
Factormeals.com/OCC50, code OCC50 for 50% off. Have you noticed HBO Max, Warner Brothers, pushing the Sopranos 25th anniversary really hard?
No, I probably because I haven't been on Max much recently.
Well, you also haven't been online much the last 4 days, probably.
Yeah, but so 2024 is the 25th anniversary of the
premiere.
The premiere. Okay, all right.
Which is it's a big deal, and I get why they're taking advantage of this. But one of the things that they're doing, they've created a Sopranos TikTok. And it's at The Sopranos on TikTok.
Okay.
And it's 25-second recaps of all 86 episodes is what they've created and they're pumping out. So, like, it's a 25-second TikTok that gives you episode 1 in, like, its entirety. But not really. When I saw a bunch of backlash to this. People were like, how could you do this? The Sopranos is art. You can't, don't TikTok my art. And I was kind of like, yeah, fuck yeah, why are you doing this? It's not cool. But then I went and watched some of the TikToks. This is good fun.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting anything out of these unless you've seen the show already.
Right.
Like nobody's like, ooh, I'll go get a good handle on what The Sopranos is about and the occurrences of each episode by watching these 25-second TikToks. That's not what this is.
Yeah.
I really like it just because as a super fan who's seen the series way too many times, it's nice to get these little 25-second reminders of like,
sure.
You know what I'm saying? And like every once in a while, I like to be able to go back and just watch a random Sopranos episode that I really enjoyed. And this is kind of giving me a catalog to pick from. Like I'll watch the 25-second TikTok and be like, ooh, I did really like that one. I'm going to check that out tonight.
I hope that they include the hallway freeze frame when they get to the episode where Carm might bang AJ's teacher.
Oh, yeah. You're rooting for that to show up, are you?
Yeah, just the hallway freeze frame.
That
cut shot. That's the GOAT. So
that some kid made in like fucking After Effects. Yeah. Anyway, at The Sopranos on TikTok if you're a big Sopranos fan. And of course, I have to take this opportunity to remind you that on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, Barrett and I created a companion podcast for every single episode, all 86 episodes of The Sopranos. It was Barrett's first time watching the show. It was my like 7th. And we did it in a way that was friendly to both first-timers and rewatchers. We had a blast. You pay just $5. $5 minimum pledge on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles to support our show and get access to all of the audio to our Sopranos companion podcast. And that is in addition to, obviously, what will be coming up starting next week. Bonus coverage of True Detective Season 4 will be airing on Patreon in the form of hotline calls from the Mollusk Militia that Barrett and I will respond to further discuss and digest each episode of True Detective Season 4. Before we talk a little bit more about True Detective Season 4, I wanted to note I started finally, after getting this show yelled at me for months, Slow Horses, Season 1. I'm almost done. I've got one more tonight.
Okay.
It's 6 episodes per season, and I believe 2 seasons have been completed. And it's Gary Oldman in there doing his thing as the head of Slaw House, as it is known. And I would note the show is not about horses that are slow.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's about. Have you ever watched any of this thing? You seen
Not yet.
any of it?
No. But I'm well versed in what it's about because much like you, I have been recommended this show a number of times.
Clam Fam is about it.
I know that it is up my alley. It's probably honestly, it very well could be next on my list after Fargo.
It's really good. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It can be a little bit like, no pun intended, slow at different points. Which is only problematic because my wife and I are both exhausted as fuck by 8 p.m. every night, and so we get through about half of an episode each night.
Okay,
that's our pace as we are slow horses ourselves.
You and your wife, you're both like, I imagine y'all are watching it and you're just like, this needs more Trollocs.
That's exactly what we're both wishing for.
That's how
those keep us up.
Those keep you up. Yeah. Those do it. Those keep you up.
That's how we got through Wheel of Time so fast. But no, look, one of the things that kind of surprised me about Slow Horses. It kind of starts out as like I don't want to say run of the mill, but sort of classic like spy typey situation, and then there are moments in the show where it really elevates itself to something else, and it creates really high stakes for the characters where you just feel like anybody could get it at any moment, and that helps a lot in terms of adding intensity. Gary Oldman is also he's goated, bro. At this point, he's done a lot of good stuff. He's great. But yeah, so for everybody who's been yelling Slow Horses at me, it's near the top of Barrett's list, and I am working my way to season 2 already and really liking it, so thanks for the recommendation. Now, this Sunday, True Detective Season 4, starring Jodie Foster, who they made sure to get in there at the Golden Globes. They had her there.
Yeah.
Had to show Jodie, which I just can't remember the last time she was like really culturally relevant. This feels like a rebirth for her of sorts.
I gotta say, Jodie Foster is an actor that for me, like I have the sense that you have. And yet she always does seem relevant. Like her name always makes people go like, oh.
Well, because she's kind of an all-timer as a result of The Silence of the Lambs, Taxi Driver when she was a kid. That's the other thing. You got to remember, she was a child actress, so she's literally been relevant since Taxi Driver was 1976.
And she got nominated really young for an award as well. But it still is interesting to me because aside from being like. It seems like it always falls back on Silence of the Lambs. It's
her big one.
Like one role in particular is why her name has been still makes people
perk their ears up
for the last 40 years. Like I don't know. Like it's very interesting.
I mean, Inside Man was solid. And she was good in that. Although it's Contact is kind of a cult classic. It's one of my dad's favorite movies. I've probably seen it a dozen times. She's great in that too. It is in fairness, Contact is a really good sci-fi movie, especially for 1997.
Right.
But no, you're not wrong. I mean, I don't know. She's just Jodie Foster. She's kind of just like this beloved American icon,
she's Hollywood
right?
royalty, even though like most people know her from
one of 3 things. Yeah.
So, but I one request to the Clam Fam is that if you are here and you're listening to us and you know about the show and you're stoked for it, I'm a little worried that you're going to need to do some spreading the word because I was with friends this weekend and they were kind of aware that True Detective Season 4 with Jodie Foster was coming out, but then like a bunch were like, oh no, I didn't know about that. That sounds tight. And then others were like, oh, when's that coming out? And I was like, Sunday. And they're oh shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm going to be I better see a True Detective Night Country trailer while watching NFL playoff games this weekend. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, look,
because I think they need to get the it's right. It's like dumpuary, right? Like this is kind of not a hot spot for TV releases and movie releases.
And it's worse than normal because of last year, of the way last year gave up so much momentum.
Yeah, we're not on the hamster wheel right now, just like churning for content.
What's next? What's next?
Exactly,
Yeah, people have kind of lost that vibe.
Yes.
No, I'm totally with you, and you and I have touched on this a lot with the big streamers that they seem like overly confident. Like we don't need marketing. Look at our subscriber base, right? And it's like, well, this is an example of a show that if your marketing is executed correctly, can pull people back in. Because I would say that's you're touching on something that is a negative here. It's possible that this isn't as big as it should be. Yeah. A positive is that it's getting really positive reviews so far.
Yeah.
Like let's turn to the tomato meter. It's at 100% currently. Yeah. Now that's at 36 reviews turned it or something like that. Mm-hmm. And But anyway, I'm seeing headlines that are like, True Detective is fully back.
Right.
Like they have recaptured the magic. There are spirals in this season, just like in, all the other ones, which is huge. Gotta love those creepy spirals. But
Carcosa!
But you and I were pulled in by
Yellow King!
the brand obviously is strong. True Detective's brand is strong, and it's kind of like they seemingly lost it with season 2. They kind of reestablished themselves a little with season 3.
Yeah.
But this feels like sort of their last opportunity to like get any more longevity out of the True Detective brand. Like they better nail season 4. So our ears perked up when we heard Jodie Foster, just like a lot of other people's, and now it's getting all these positive reviews and this buzz, but that's only if you're really fucking paying attention.
Right.
It's not getting shoved in your face, and HBO does seem like they're a little bit cocky. You're not getting like NFL Sunday ads like you were saying, and I can't even remember the last time. Maybe House of the Dragon, they go and do that kind of budget for the marketing. But if you're in the Clam fam and you're planning on taking that one on with us, which you should, like I've said, if you've never watched True Detective, you don't have to have seen any of the first 3 seasons, although what the hell is wrong with you if you haven't seen True Detective season 1? But this one stands alone just like the other 3 seasons that exist already do. And we're really looking forward to starting coverage next week on True Detective Season 4. Season premiere is on Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, so 8 o'clock Central our time. And Barrett and I will be discussing the first episode and sharing our thoughts and giving a general review and recap on Monday, most likely. So either Monday or Tuesday of next week. I have to imagine that we're able to make it work Monday, though, hopefully.
But I would think so.
Scheduling dependent.
And then obviously Mollis Militia, like get your calls in.
Yeah, as soon as you watch.
Ideally right after you watch. Yep.
Don't go read a whole bunch of Reddit shit and then call in with that. We don't want that. We want your thoughts, your original thoughts and reaction on that Mollusk Militia hotline on Patreon. Then Barrett and I will go through the calls and respond to them in turn on the show. And we have a blast. So yeah, if you're really stoked for True Detective, make sure you hop on patreon.com/oystersclamscockles, support our show and get even more True Detective Season 4 content, along with everything else that's available in our backlog, including The Sopranos and White Lotus bonus coverage, House of the Dragon bonus coverage. If you never did the House of the Dragon bonus coverage for Season 1, might be something you want to go through before Season 2. That is all there for you on patreon.com/oystersclamscockles. Barrett, is there anything else you wanted to touch on or cover today?
I don't think so. Maybe one. I just remembered for Globes. I think it was Best Supporting Actress, but Lily Gladstone won for Killers of the Flower Moon, which was pretty historical.
Yes, cool. I somehow skipped over that. Sorry.
Cool for her to do to speak in some of the Blackfoot dialect or Blackfoot language.
That was tight.
And so just wanted to make sure we tossed that in there as another very cool moment from the Globes. And one of the things that Killers of the Flower Moon is getting, I think, some of the most praise for is shining light on this story. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why I will at some point journey in for the 4-hour film is just for kind of some of the historical educational aspects of it.
Yeah, just pick 3 nights, chop it into 3, and then take it on. Yeah. But yeah, no, thank you, Barrett. Lily Gladstone won Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture for Killers of the Flower Moon. She was up against Carey Mulligan from Maestro Sandra Huller.
Oh, so it was Best Actress. So she is the one of the leads of the film.
Yeah, she won the actress version of what Cillian Murphy won for Oppenheimer.
Right, okay, yeah.
And then the other one I skipped was Robert Downey Jr. won actor in a supporting role in any motion picture for Oppenheimer as well.
Yeah. And then he was later in a commercial for something called Aura, and they must have paid him an ungodly amount of money to do that.
Stop, watch that commercial, and go, really smart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but just to have like an A-list award winner in the commercial that's playing during the Globes.
I mean, and he is like, he's one of the highest paid actors like ever at this point.
Yeah.
And doesn't typically, like you'll see George Clooney in the freaking Nespresso commercials. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like RDJ showing up to do some random ass commercial, like they threw the bag at him.
Dude, so also in that category that RDJ won was Ryan Gosling for Barbie, obviously, De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Charles Melton for May December, and then Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things and Willem Dafoe for Poor Things.
Okay.
Willem Dafoe did not have a Hollywood Walk of Fame star until this past weekend.
Right.
That melted my fucking brain. Doesn't like Snoop Dogg have a Walk of Fame star?
Well,
how the fuck did Willem Dafoe not have one?
Willem Dafoe, he's not like
He's in so many things, though, that I feel like are considered classics.
Well, the big thing to know about the Walk of Fame is that you pay for your star.
Oh.
That's a pay-to-play situation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do not, there's not like a association that's like, this year's nominees for stars on the Walk of Fame are...
I didn't know that, dude.
Yeah, like,
now I don't care.
Maybe you get reached out to and they're like, hey, we'd love to have your name on the Walk of Stars.
Yeah.
Do you and your team want to pay? I think at one point, I think it was, the last time I heard a number, I think it's 25 grand maybe. Something like that. I don't know what the current price is, but yeah, so it's a little bit of a, like, yeah,
it's like 75,000 now.
Okay, it's like a thing, but you're paying for it, so it's kind of also it's not as big of a deal as it could be.
Okay, yeah. It says it's a $75,000 payment after selection. The money is used to pay for the creation and installation of the star, as well as maintenance of the Walk of Fame, which I imagine involves one man with a push broom.
Yeah.
Like, what are you fucking maintaining? Anyway, I couldn't.
I mean,
Zac
Efron just got a star recently too.
Well, now it makes sense. I didn't realize it's, you get selected, but then you also have to be like, yes, now is the time I would like to pay for that and have it installed. Yep. So, anyway, it was he was up there with a random coupling of people to accept it.
I'm just waiting for somebody to do the Michael Scott, though. Instead of putting their handprints in there, they just like shove their face into the cement.
Yeah. But he was up there with Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, it's always super random who comes up
like
there with you.
That you're like, wait, are they like really close friends?
I have
like,
no idea.
So, or it was just like who was available? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, anyway, it was
like Jeremy Allen White was at the Zac Efron one, and it's like, okay, so y'all just did the movie together, so is this like also promoting it?
Do you actually
fold this into the marketing budget for Iron Claw? Like, how did this?
I bet they did.
What's happening here?
I bet they did. Okay, well now it's less weird now that I know how that shakes out. Remember to continue to support our sponsors. This week, today, we had factormeals.com/OCC50, code OCC50 to get 50% off. Barrett and I will be back later this week on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles to talk more Golden Globes, more True Detective Season 4, whatever the Mollusk Militia wants to talk about this week, frankly. I'll give some more Slow Horses commentary. I will surely have finished Season 1 by then and can give a more complete recommendation on Season 1 if you're in for that. But yeah, Mollusk Militia on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. Make sure to get your hotline calls in this week because this is our last week where we'll really talk about whatever you want on Patreon before we fully dedicate ourselves to True Detective Season 4 for 6 weeks. Did you know it's only 6 episodes this season?
I did not.
6 episodes.
That is a small number of episodes.
Month and a half.
Smaller than I would like,
Month and a half that will be focused on True Detective Season 4. But yeah, it also gives you and I very little time to figure out what we're going to cover next.
Okay, time to start looking at the March release calendar.
Yeah. Yes, it is. For more from me, Ross Bolin, listen to the Ross Bolin podcast wherever podcasts are played. For more from Barrett, follow him on social at Barrett Dudley, where he will put up, Instagram
Lord
stories and let you know about his other podcasts and such on there. And follow us on social media everywhere. Just search Oysters, Clams, Cockles on TikTok, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter. We're on all three. And go to bolinmedia.com/shop to grab yourself some merch. Perhaps you are in a Succession celebratory mood after their big wins at the Globes. Well, we, of course, have a bunch of Succession-inspired merch at bolinmedia.com/shop. We also have White Lotus-inspired stuff, House of the Dragon-inspired stuff, bolinmedia.com/shop. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for rolling with us on our first episode of 2024. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And until we meet again, remember, time is a flat circle.